I'm Vicki Hogarth, and welcome to Southwest Magazine. I'm joined today by Umlas Beltran and Briana Cowie of ECW's new initiative, Project Village. Thank you both for being here today.
Thank you so much for having us.
I want to start off first by talking about an event that's coming up, and if you're watching this show after this has taken place, it's still relevant, but for the purpose of us recording today, it's happening on August 27th at the W.C. O'Neill Arena in St. Andrews. It's an electric vehicle driving event for people in the community across Charlotte County. So can you tell us what we can expect that day?
So this event is called Confident EV Drive. This is an electric vehicle test drive event happening, you're right, it's August 27th and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And it's all about getting the community members to know more about electric vehicles. We will be partnering with the New Brunswick Lung Association to bring down like different kinds of electric vehicles. So we'll have Tesla Model 3, we'll have Hyundai Kona and Chevrolet Bolt on site. So people are allowed 30-minute test drive time slots on each car. So if you're very interested with electric vehicles, you can test drive all of them. So, but yeah, it's a whole day of learning about electric vehicles and talking to people who had first-hand experience on this vehicle, so you know more about the charging, the experience on the road, how to use electric vehicles in winter. So all of those things are happening on that day. So if people are interested and if they want to know more about this new technology on the vehicles, then they must. This attendance is a must for this event.
And Project Village obviously has started a pilot project where people are able in the community to take these vehicles for daily rentals, hourly rentals, and I want to get to that a little bit later because you're launching this further this fall so that it will be accessible to anyone in Southwest New Brunswick who wants to take an electric vehicle, which is wonderful if you don't have a car, if you're limited to one car per household. But can you talk first, both of you, a little bit about some of the misconceptions people might have about electric cars that you're noticing from all your work educating people on how to use them and what they're all about?
It's much like most new things that happen. The transition period, it does take time, it takes education, it takes capacity building and trust building, of course, as well. So I think primarily most people's concerns with electric vehicles would be around range anxiety. So oftentimes the assumption is, well, how am I supposed to be able to go to this location if I can't, like what happens if I lose a charge, what happens if I'm stranded, etc. So events like this, and this event is being sponsored through Natural Resources Canada through the Zero Emissions Vehicle Awareness Program, much like New Brunswick Lung Association also received funding through that program. So the intention of this event and many other webinars and other events we've been having since March is to really educate people and to build out that confidence over time. So that helps to address things like range anxiety. For instance, we did have an individual, Jeremy Bernadine, I believe, from EV Drive.
From
All EV Canada. So he came in and he gave a webinar to us for 45 minutes or something to that effect to a fairly large group of people who are interested in transitioning to electric vehicles, but like Rose said, maybe don't know how they're going to perform in the winter, maybe don't know how to expect how to plan for trips and things like that. So it is, of course, it's going to be a behavioral change for people to kind of readjust, but much like every other new technology, it does take time to kind of get used to and familiarize. So what we're looking to do with having the Project Village vehicles available as well as different types of models is to really sort of mitigate those concerns firsthand by learning from people who have been driving these things for years and years successfully now.
You will have drivers, and now I'm saying this because we'll air this episode after this event too, because I think what you're doing, this episode can serve as an education for people watching at home too, but you'll have drivers, people that own electric vehicles at this event to speak to it firsthand, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And actually Rose and the team have been at the farmers market in St. Andrews the last couple of times, and we have lots of educational materials as well. So cost comparisons, for instance, between gas-fueled vehicles and electric vehicles, range pricing between gas and a charge. So also educating individuals around, because I think there's a lot of concern. It's a very high upfront cost to purchase an electric vehicle, which is why a car share model is a little bit different with the Project Village car share, like a shared asset approach, which of course is also very, very new. So when you introduce two new things together, it does take time to sort of get people more familiar and more comfortable with that process. But what we're doing as well at these events is educating people on what to expect financially upfront, but then how that they can have cost savings long term as well. This is a use, like how you use the vehicles. This is kind of, and you'll get them behind the wheel specifically, and then you show them how, you know, the screen looks different, or how to see where the charge exists. And the interesting thing about the Konas as well, and we've had a lot of people test drive the Kona and kind of participate in the car share to date. And it's really nice because I prefer the Kona to the Teslas. Price, for one thing. And the Teslas still seem very alien to me. I mean, they're really fascinating to look at, but the Konas are really built, and so are many of the other manufactured vehicles, to resemble gas-fueled vehicles. So when you look at the dashboard, and I really hope people do come this Saturday, or next Saturday. I'm sorry, the 27th. Next Saturday to kind of see it. And the fuel gauge is, so the charge gauge is very much like a fuel gauge, and it will indicate to you what the mileage is left and all of that other stuff as well. And you can see too, perhaps the most interesting thing that we've been experiencing with people when they get into the vehicle at these rideshare events, because we have attended some with the New Brunswick Lung Association, was the concept of regenerative braking. It almost feels a little choppy. So when you start letting your foot off of, and it's hard not to call it the gas pedal, but I guess the acceleration pedal, you start to feel the car regeneratingly brake. So you don't even need to place your foot on the brake pedal before the car starts to slow quite considerably. And as it is braking, it's actually refueling the electric charge. So you're actually gaining some kilometer distance as you, like, based upon your driving habits. So there's little things like that you don't even know. And also you learn different things about how to charge in a really sort of a very useful way, or in a way that's going to get you the farthest that you need to go, and trip planning and all of that stuff.
So that could be like, could that be, just as someone who's never driven an electric car, I bet you will have a lot of questions, especially around the concept of sharing, because I know when you started working on this project, it was years ago, I'm sure, to get it started. You weren't thinking about the world that we're living in right now, where the gas prices are so high. There's going to be a lot of interest for people. I know that we were talking to you about CHCO. We've been thinking about the one outside the arena. Maybe we'll take this to town council meetings. And one of the questions I had for you both before we started filming is, well, how far could I go? If it's fully charged here, how long would that last for on the road?
It's actually, like, for full charge, it's actually 415 kilometer, and I'm speaking in on part of a Hyundai Kona that we have. It's 415 kilometers on full charge. And basically, just for visual, you can go from St. Stephen Carsland Civic Center to St. John Regional Hospital in one go, and you can come back for sure. So without charging the car, you can go from St. Stephen to St. John, and back to your house in St. Stephen. So that is a good range. And then once you come back, then you can charge the car. So it doesn't really, it's not really necessary to charge the car. So just for example, you're just gonna drop someone in the hospital or wait for someone in the hospital. You can wait by the parking lot and still have sufficient charge to go back to St. Stephen in your home.
So you don't have to find a plug wherever you happen to be. And is there any tips in terms of, like, waiting for it maybe to go down very far before you charge again, or should you, to make the most of it, plug it in whenever you have the opportunity?
Usually it's, since it's a behavioral shift, there's a lot of trip planning that is involved in using an electric vehicle. So the smart way of using electric vehicle is that whenever you're going to have to stop, that's an opportunity for you to charge. So hitting two things in one go. So if you're going to do, for example, shopping, while you do shopping, for sure, no one will shop for 30 minutes. They're gonna be shopping for 1 hour at least. So it's a good time to charge the car. If you wanted to stop to go eat at a restaurant, you can charge the car while eating. So some people, they think that, oh, after I do all of these things, then I'll charge.
Okay.
No, not necessarily. It's more on like planning ahead where you want to go. Is there a charging station available in there? And if there's none, is there a spare time for me to charge the car after I've done all of these things? But usually we're hearing people like doing like long rides because people are like using electric vehicles for long drives. And their feedback was like, I was forced to eat my lunch because I need to charge my electric vehicle. But in the long run, it was beneficial for them because it's good to have a stop, do some errands, eat something, answer emails, and then go back to the road with my electric vehicle.
Now, this episode is going to reveal to people how little I know about cars, any type of car. I think you're going to have a lot of people coming to the event because of the famous Tesla that will be there. It almost has mythical status in terms of, I think universally it does. Now, does the Tesla, is it one of those electric cars that also has a gas component to it, or am I totally off base here?
No, it doesn't actually.
Okay.
And it's not quite a hovercraft yet, but maybe that's Elon Musk's next goal. I'm not entirely sure. No, Tesla is it's a different beast all in and of its own, and I'm certainly not a Tesla driver or owner or not advocate, but big knowledge holder anyway myself. So I don't want to say things out of line. But the Tesla is a larger range. It's a different type of driving standard. So you'll see actually there's a big different screen in the Tesla as well. So we'll be able to show people that on Saturday too. And the drawback about a Tesla is that the charging infrastructure we have here in New Brunswick through MB Power, you require a different adapter in order to access that charging infrastructure. So there are things called superchargers or level 2 chargers in the province that have been what I assume to be installed by Tesla themselves. But the New Brunswick charging infrastructure, to my knowledge, isn't necessarily directly set up to be plugged immediately into the port of a Tesla. So you do require a different adapter. Whereas the Bolt and the Kona, which will be there, and we'll also be able to show people how to charge as well because the arena has several charging stations, so that's really wonderful too. But you do need a different adapter for a Tesla. Yeah.
Okay. I'm thinking that a lot of people will be interested in this, as I mentioned before, the idea that gas is so expensive right now. What's wonderful is obviously the environmental impact that doing something electric has, but on a financial level, a lot of us are experiencing drastic lifestyle changes in the sense that just from a financial standpoint, you think twice before going to St. John. You even think twice before doing a shorter trip between St. Stephen and St. Andrews now because of the cost of gas. It's significant every time you do an errand. What are the cost comparisons when you're looking at, and let's price this out with gas right now. I'm sure that the idea of taking, let's say, a short drive, one that would be a typical Charlotte County drive, what's the price difference between going electric versus a gas vehicle?
So for that one, there's a really significant change, like a significant deduction on the reduced cost when you're using electric vehicles. So just to give you a visual on how it works. So I'm not sure how the gas price are, but I think I read it like 1.7 like recently. But for an electric vehicle, for our experience with a Hyundai Kona, we always use a fast charge station. So we have 2 chargers. So we have the level 2 commercial charging station in NB Power commercial charging station. And then we also have a level 3, which is a fast charge. Fast charge means that you will be able to gain 80% of your battery for 20 to 40 minutes. Okay. But it's less than an hour. So we always use the level 3 fast charge. And it's $15 per hour, but every time that we use it, we pay less than $10. Okay. for that one. So there are moments that we have like for our pilot program, there are moments that people are charging for $5 plus tax, $2 plus tax. So it depends upon the level of your charge. But this is so fast that it's actually with our operational cost. Well, the operational cost of the electric vehicles in general, if you're a household, you have an electric vehicle, it's actually not much. Like it's neglectable, like on the actual overall cost of operating an electric vehicle. So imagine that 80% of the full range of a Hyundai Kona, it's around like past 200 kilometers, like more than close to 300 kilometers that you have gained. And where can you go with that 300 kilometers is like, how would you think of it? I could go anywhere. I could go shopping. I could go to a restaurant. I could go to St. John. You can go anywhere with those kilometers. So
wow. So I think what's revolutionary, what Project Village is doing, is oftentimes with things that are environmental. Let's talk solar paneling. Let's talk electric vehicles. If you as a consumer are thinking about it, it's that initial cost of either buying the vehicle or installing solar panels that can be a barrier for people. But with Project Village, we will see this fall that you will open up electric vehicles to the entire Southwest New Brunswick market for renting by the hour, by the day. And this, I think, will change a lot of people's lives in the area. Can you talk a little bit about what the price will be in terms of if, let's say, someone wanted to do a trip to Costco coming from St. Stephen or St. Andrews, St. George, what is the hourly cost rate? And how exactly do you factor in the price of what it will be to take one of these vehicles on the road?
Sure. So Rose can give a bit better of a detailed on what it would cost to use the car share product, but I wanted to mention too, I know that the upfront cost is quite significant on electric vehicles, and the wait time actually right now is about 6 months to a year if you wanted to purchase one yourself for your own household. But the federal and the provincial government have two different forms of subsidies as well, so you can take $5,000 off through NB Power for an electric vehicle purchase, and $5,000 off federally as well. So we'll be able to talk a little bit about that too at the drive event. But Rose can talk a little bit more in detail about the actual car share costing.
So the car share is still in pilot phase. So after the pilot phase, there are some changes. We're close to developing it in a way that it will fit the community. But in our pilot phase, there's going to be the cost that is included in this car share will be a membership plan. So we're always going to look for a membership plan. Another thing is that apart from the membership plan is the rate per use. So the rate per use is not dependent on kilometers, it's dependent on time. So per minute of use, you're going to be charged. And how the system works is that the customer, the community member, has the full autonomy on how to when to book the cars, what time are they going to use it, what date are they going to use it, and how long are they going to use it. And it's like an Uber, like it estimates right there, it estimates like how much are you going to pay, but the actual charge of the car, the actual invoice of the car, it will be dependent on the actual trip that you have. So you can book. So you can plan your trip. You can see the schedule of the car if the car is available or not. But the way that it works is that you have a membership plan and then a pay per use.
You were mentioning before we started filming that it might even factor out to being a third of the cost of taking a regular car on the road. That's what you're finding so far in the pilot project?
Yeah, yes. Absolutely. Depending on, like Rose said, if you've planned your trip accordingly and you're ensuring that you're not, returning late or whatnot, because a lot of what we're trying to do as well with a car share model is to really, that behavioral change is going to be paramount. And behavioral change, like everybody knows, like I said before, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of education, and it takes a lot of guidance. So for instance, if you, Vicki, you're awarded a 15-minute grace period into your booking. So say for instance, traffic here in Charlotte County isn't bad, but who knows, maybe a deer went in your way or something, or you're delayed for whatever reason. That's not going to affect your invoice in the end. But if you're late an hour, well then we're going to have to penalize you with a late fee because you could have possibly put off the user in front of you. So then that user in front of you would have had to have adjusted because they wouldn't be able to access that vehicle. So what we really want to do is we want to incentivize good behavior, and we want to ensure that everybody is being conscious of the community using the vehicles, not as individuals specifically. Although individuals are using it just to kind of create and foster that sense of trust and care and concern over other community members as well.
I love when I see different community groups collaborating, especially ones I believe in so much, and I love that Charlotte Dial-A-Ride is already partnering with Project Village to take these vehicles on the road. How is that partnership going? I'm sure most people are familiar with Charlotte Dial-A-Ride, but it's a service that people in Southwest New Brunswick can use if they need to get to a doctor's appointment and don't necessarily have their own car. So what a perfect pairing.
Yeah, Charlotte Dial-A-Ride's amazing. Dana has since retired, and we do miss her sorely, but Julie is new to the team, and she's been wonderful. I know Rose has talked with her a couple of times, and we've talked to Sharon McGladry and John Costell as well, as really involved and active and wonderful board members of Charlotte Dial-A-Ride. The partnership's going quite well right now, and they have used the vehicles, which is great and wonderful, and to reduce their costs as well. And I think it's really important to highlight, and I really always try to highlight Charlotte Dial-A-Ride from the transportation portion of how Charlotte County's always functioned is like they're essential. They are the most essential form of transportation, and it's really important as a community for us to recognize not only their value, but the need to ensure that we continue to invest in them. And sometimes investment isn't just financial, but it's also through volunteerism. So I will give a little bit of a shout out as well. If you're looking to volunteer and become a little bit more active in your community as a driver for Charlotte Dial-A-Ride, I would strongly encourage that you get in touch with them. You can also access their website through our website, so www.projectvillage.ca/transportation is where you'll find everything related to the car share, including all of the policies and sort of methods and user guide that Rose has developed, in addition to our partnership specifically with Charlotte Dial-A-Ride.
I think for anyone who hasn't checked out what Project Village is and what your plans are for it, it's time to do so. What you're doing is amazing, and it's one of my favorite things to watch in the community, because I think it really can revolutionize how we live and how we're able to live in a rural community, even when confronted with things like gas prices and whatnot. Can you talk a little bit about the overall project and what the vision is for what you plan to do?
Yeah, so Project Village was launched last year. Myself, I've been working at ECW since 2018, and when Donald Kaloran, who really helped to build, obviously, ECW as to what it is now, left, I became the new executive director last year. With it, a lot of that planning initially with Project Village was sort of internal, and then we took it external. So we did do our big launch last August, and things are still very much underway. For instance, right now the biggest thing not only is just the car share, but the Fresh Mart property. Yes. So the intention of Project Village is really to build the future health and sustainable rural communities. So that means so many different things when we think about rural community challenges. I'm a rural New Brunswicker myself, so and I think that what I've been seeing most often with these community groups that we're so fortunate to work with is that there are a lot of really great people who are really committed and dedicated to their community, and we want to work collaboratively alongside them. So we've been pulling in different groups, whether it's Vibrant Communities Charlotte County and their food security work to help us to inform some of the stuff that we're doing with the Fresh Mart. We also work with the University of New Brunswick for the indoor farm portion of the Fresh Mart too. Partnerships with Charlotte Dial-A-Ride are really important. the YMCA in Blacks Harbor and Eastern Charlotte now as well. So we've been really building out more of that community capacity network, but Project Village at its core is still very much the projects that we have in the hopper, which is the car share, the indoor farm, and the sustainability hub at the Fresh Mart building. And the affordable housing project has since spun off into a new nonprofit called Project Village Housing. So that work is still very much underway. It's just a little bit more at arm's length to ECW, so we can continue to work within our charitable purposes. So that's kind of the bigger picture of Project Village. And I think the most exciting stuff right now is that work is currently happening to the Fresh Mart property. So we were in the middle of purchasing the Fresh Mart last spring, and we've spent the last year working with Sworenson's Engineering out of St. Andrews. So we work fully local. That's really, really important to us, and work with local contractors and work with local experts and local community groups. And Sworenson's has been wonderful for us because we knew when we bought this big brick of an asset. I'm not an engineer, I'm not a developer. I very much recognize I have limitations, and our team also has limitations. So we really work to find and identify those experts in our community. And Sworenson's has done wonderful work with aquaculture industry and really understanding like water flow and all of that stuff that's required for indoor hydroponic farming. And so they have designed the interior space of the Fresh Mart for us. So the front half, we actually have a microbiology lab. It's our best kept secret at ECW. We've had a well water testing and microbiology lab since 2005 actually, and it functions as a social enterprise for the organization. So it helps us to reinvest a lot back into the work we do, and continue to employ people and continue to do the projects that we do as an organization. So we are expanding that into the front half of the Fresh Mart. It's about 1,300 square feet. And then the remainder of the Fresh Mart is what we call a living lab sustainability hub, where it will be an indoor hydroponic farm and a research and development space. So we've directly partnered with the University of New Brunswick, Dr. Terry Chopin, and a recent master's graduate student there, Brian Gogan, has a lab called the Integrated Multi-Trophic Aquaculture Lab. And we're working with them to design a farm plan for controlled environment agriculture. So we've been directly corresponding with the Department of Agriculture, Aquaculture and Fisheries and Agri-Food Canada, and working more with local experts as well as regional and provincial experts to ensure that we have a really well thought out business plan model around this. And the intention, we've had a lot of discussions about this, and our mission primarily is to provide food to the community, but also to provide food literacy and food education programs for community members, for local schools. We work a lot with the Blacks Community School, for instance.
Thank you both so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having us.
My guests today have been Rose Umlas Beltran and Briana Cowie from ECW's Project Village. I'm Vicki Hogarth. Thank you for watching Southwest Magazine.
Southwest Magazine is a news and public affairs production of CHCO Television.